The Secret of Secrets. Dan Brown. The cipher awakens. The sun was setting behind the hills of Cambridge when Professor Robert Langdon received the message that would change the course of his life, again. It came not by phone or email, but in the most curious way, an envelope slipped under his door, sealed with red wax, bearing no return address. There was no name inside, no letter, only an image, a single page printed with a strange geometric diagram, spirals intersecting with ancient symbols and a Latin inscription curved across the bottom. In tenebris lucem quaere. Seek the light in the darkness. Langdon had seen a lot in his years studying symbology, but this was different. The shapes were reminiscent of Hermetic diagrams, sacred geometry. The Latin was familiar, but its tone was older than the Renaissance. It whispered of something arcane, ancient. He stared at it for a long time, letting the silence of his office settle around him like a heavy cloak. And then, slowly, he pulled out his phone and made a call to a contact he hadn't spoken to in years. "Eliyahu," he said, "I think someone's waking up the old secrets." Within 24 hours, Langdon was stepping off a plane at Ben Gurion Airport, the warm Israeli night wind brushing against his coat. Waiting for him was Dr. Leora Ben-Ari, an expert in Near Eastern archaeology, and someone who once came dangerously close to being more than a colleague. Leora didn't waste time. "It's not a hoax," she said, slipping into the passenger seat as their car raced toward Jerusalem. "The image you received, it matches a carving found last week under the Western Wall tunnels. We believe it's connected to the Secretum Secretorum." Langdon felt his heart skip. The secret of secrets. A manuscript whispered about in dusty corners of ancient texts. Believed to have been written by Aristotle for Alexander the Great, it was said to contain everything: mystical knowledge, divine wisdom, and secrets about the nature of life and power that had been buried for centuries. "People have died for less," Leora murmured, and Langdon believed her. The tunnels beneath the old city of Jerusalem were cold and damp, echoing with the weight of millennia. Lanterns flickered as they descended, every step deeper into history. The air smelled of stone and secrets. There, carved into a half-collapsed column, was the same spiral Langdon had seen on the paper. But here, it pulsed with meaning. Around it, smaller inscriptions in Aramaic, a language Langdon only partially understood, hinted at layers beneath the visible world. He traced the carving with his fingers and felt a jolt of intuition. "This isn't just a symbol," he said, "it's a map." "A map to what?" Leora asked. Langdon hesitated. "I don't know, but it's pointing somewhere." That night, as they pored over the fragmentary texts, Leora found it. A line in a 12th century Arabic commentary that spoke of the eye of illumination buried beneath the temple. A portal, it said, to the place where the Secretum Secretorum had once rested before being smuggled out of the city during the Crusades. But before they could get any further, Langdon noticed something chilling. The spiral had been marked, recently. They weren't alone down here. Outside, as they emerged into the moonlight, a dark figure watched from the rooftops, cloaked, silent, eyes fixed on Langdon. In his hand was a matching diagram, burned into leather. His group had protected the secret for generations, and now, someone, an outsider, was getting too close. The Brotherhood of the Veil would not allow it. The next morning, Langdon stood atop the Mount of Olives, the city spread out before him. The dome of the rock glinted in the morning sun. Somewhere beneath that ancient ground, beneath layers of myth and memory, lay the first clue, the first step on a path that would lead him across continents, through cryptic messages, ancient sects, and a truth too dangerous for the world to see. Langdon adjusted his jacket and turned to Leora. "Ready to go chasing shadows?" She smiled. "If they lead to the truth, always." And with that, The journey began. Lost scrolls and silent stones. They descended into the archives of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a cavernous chamber buried deep beneath the basilica, where the dust of centuries coated manuscripts like ash. This was where secrets came to sleep. Langdon moved slowly, reverently. The walls here were lined with scrolls and codices so old they seemed to breathe history. Candlelight danced across faded texts in Latin, Greek, Hebrew, and Arabic, a tapestry of human longing for truth. At the center of the room stood a single chest, iron-bound and locked with a symbol that made Langdon's breath catch, a double spiral interwoven with the Eye of Horus. "It's the same motif," he whispered. Leora nodded. "And according to the monks, it hasn't been opened in over 800 years. The chest had no key, only a puzzle. The lock was mechanical, a series of rotating rings etched with letters from 4 languages. It took Langdon 2 hours and 3 prayers to solve it. The solution came not through reason, but through intuition, a phrase from the Hermetica written in Latin and echoed in Greek. As above, so below. The chest creaked open. Inside were 3 scrolls, remarkably well preserved, and between them a piece of blackened stone, no larger than a child's hand, but etched with a script neither Langdon nor Leora had ever seen. It shimmered faintly in the low light. "This," Leora said, "is not from Jerusalem." The stone, they would later learn, was not native to the Middle East. Tests showed it contained compounds found only in the mountains of Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and the script, a near match for the undeciphered symbols found at the ancient site of Göbekli Tepe. "Someone moved it," Langdon said. "Someone took the secret far from its origin." And so their journey shifted again, to the oldest temple known to man, Göbekli Tepe. A name that made archaeologists whisper like they were invoking magic. Located on a windswept plateau in southeastern Turkey, it predated Stonehenge by 6,000 years. A place of mystery, of forgotten gods, of impossible craftsmanship. Langdon and Leora arrived under the cover of dusk. The site was closed to the public, but a friend of Leora's, a Turkish scholar named Aydin, had access. He let them in, his eyes wary. "I've seen things here," Aydin murmured. "Symbols on the stones that don't belong, geometry that's too perfect, as if someone left messages, thousands of years ahead of their time." He led them past the towering T-shaped pillars, each carved with animals, symbols, and shapes that whispered of forgotten rituals. And there, near the western edge of the complex, Langdon saw it, the spiral again. Fainter, eroded by time, but unmistakable. This one led not to a vault or tomb, but to an observation platform carved into the stone, aligned perfectly with the rising sun on the solstice. "This place wasn't just spiritual," Langdon whispered. "It was astronomical, mathematical, philosophical. A sanctuary of sacred knowledge." And then he found it, a marking at the base of the platform, the same unknown script as on the black stone. The scrolls called it the Gate of Illumination, Leora said, breathless. They believed that light itself carried divine knowledge, that at the right moment, in the right place, truth would be revealed. Langdon turned to her, his mind racing. "We need to be here at sunrise." That night, someone tried to kill them. A shadow slipped into their tent. Leora woke just in time to see the glint of a blade. She screamed, and Langdon tackled the intruder. There was a struggle, sand and fists and breathless panic, and then the man was gone, vanished into the night like a ghost. In his hand, he had left behind a sigil, a wax seal, smeared and broken. The Brotherhood of the Veil, still following, still watching. At dawn, they stood on the platform. The wind was cold, the sky shifted from black to indigo, and then, just as the sun breached the horizon, light struck the carved stone, It moved across the surface like liquid gold and revealed what had been invisible. There, hidden in the stone, was a constellation pattern, the same found on the ceiling of an ancient Egyptian tomb in Luxor. Langdon's mind reeled. "Egypt," he murmured. "That's where the trail leads next." Leora didn't speak. She was staring at something else, a small inscription that glowed just beneath the constellation. "Within the vault of kings, beneath the breath of the Sphinx." Langdon exhaled slowly. The secret wasn't just ancient, it wasn't just lost. It had been hidden, carefully, deliberately, beneath the sands of the Nile. And now, they were closer than ever. The vault beneath the Sphinx. Cairo's air felt heavy with history. From their hotel balcony, Langdon could see the Nile glinting in the distance, winding like a silver ribbon through the desert. But his eyes were fixed on the Sphinx, looming in the distance, a monument older than Egypt itself, guarding secrets whispered through the ages. The inscription at Göbekli Tepe had been clear: "Within the vault of kings, beneath the breath of the Sphinx." And now they were here, chasing a clue buried beneath the most enigmatic statue on Earth. Officially, there were no chambers beneath the Sphinx. The Egyptian government had denied such rumors for decades. But Leora's contact, a former student turned archaeologist, believed otherwise. By night, they slipped into the Giza Plateau. No tourists, no guards, just wind, stone, and shadows. The student, Amira, led them to the base of the Sphinx's right paw. "The soil here is different," she whispered. "Less compacty. Someone excavated and refilled it." Langdon helped brush away the sand. Minutes passed, then hours, and then a hollow thud, a stone slab. They pried it open. Stairs descended into darkness. The air inside was cold and dry, untouched by the desert heat above. They descended slowly, lanterns flickering against ancient walls. Hieroglyphs lined the passage, but many were unfamiliar, as if they belonged to a language even older than the pharaohs. At the bottom, they reached a sealed door carved with a single phrase in Latin: "In tenebris lux veritatis." In darkness, the light of truth. Langdon touched the symbol at its center, the spiral once more, and the door groaned open. The vault was vast, circular, and entirely silent. Stone pillars held up a domed ceiling covered in celestial maps. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it, a single artifact, a mirrored disc, smooth, polished, etched with constellations and a strange rotating mechanism. As Langdon examined it, the disc clicked, and a beam of light shot from a hidden slit in the ceiling, illuminating the pedestal. Reflected by the disc, the beam struck the dome above, lighting up a hidden inscription: "The soul of mankind ascends when it remembers," and beneath it, coordinates, not to Jerusalem, not to Anatolia, not even to Egypt, to Antarctica. Leora stared in disbelief. That can't be right. But Langdon knew the ancient world had always seen Antarctica not as a barren wasteland, but as Terra Australis Incognita, the land of fire and ice where gods once walked. What if the final piece was hidden in a place no one would ever think to look, he said. A place untouched for millennia. Their journey, it seemed, was far from over. That night, the Brotherhood struck again. They were waiting when Langdon and Leora emerged from the vault, masked, armed. "Give us the disc," one said. Langdon hesitated, but then, to their surprise, Leora stepped forward. "You don't want truth," she said. "You want control." The man moved to strike her, but Amira intervened. A flare, a struggle, confusion in the dark. And then they ran. Through sandstorms and sirens, across rooftops and alleys, they vanished into Cairo's chaos. But the disc was safe, and so was the path forward. Back in their hotel as dawn broke, Langdon looked out at the horizon. He had chased symbols across continents, uncovered lost languages, spoken with the dead through stone and starlight. And yet, the most profound truths still lay ahead. The secret of secrets wasn't a relic. It was a mirror, reflecting back what humanity had forgotten. And now, Antarctica waited, not just as the final destination, but as the beginning of revelation. The revelation in ice. The wind howled like a living thing. Langdon stood at the edge of the Antarctic plateau, bundled in gear he never imagined he'd need in a search for ancient wisdom. The cold cut deeper than any dagger, but the horizon, pure white, endless, shimmered with mystery. The coordinates led them here, to nothing, just snow, ice, and the creaking silence of a continent untouched by time. A week passed before they found the crevasse. It opened like a mouth in the ice, jagged and unnatural. Below, dark stone walls spiraled into the earth, perfectly carved, perfectly preserved. This was no natural formation. It was architecture, prehistoric, impossible. They descended, each step echoing against frozen walls. Carvings surrounded them, not Egyptian, not Sumerian, but something older, something universal. Spirals, stars, eyes. At the bottom, a circular chamber, just like beneath the Sphinx, and at its center, a crystal obelisk. It pulsed faintly with inner light, as if alive. Langdon approached. The mirrored disc from the Sphinx fit perfectly into a socket on the obelisk's base. He turned it. A hum filled the air, and then projection. Not on a wall, but in their minds. A voice without language, yet fully understood. This is memory. This is origin. They saw images, humans gathering at fires looking up at the stars, priests in temples drawing spirals in sand, philosophers in white robes whispering truths passed from generation to generation, and war. So much war. Knowledge hidden, burned, stolen, buried. The voice continued. What was once known was made forbidden. But memory is eternal. Truth cannot die. It only waits. Leora clutched Langdon's arm. Robert, this isn't just a vault. He nodded. It's a message. They understood now. The secret of secrets wasn't a formula. It wasn't even a single idea. It was the understanding that humanity had once lived in harmony with a deeper knowledge, of time, of self, of the stars. That ancient civilizations had known the truth of the soul, the nature of unity, the power of collective memory. And over time that knowledge had been shattered, scattered across the world, buried beneath stone and snow. But it hadn't been lost. It had been waiting. Langdon stood before the obelisk, overwhelmed. So what now? He asked softly. The voice replied, Now you remember. They emerged from the chamber into a blinding white dawn. No trumpets, no flashes of divinity, just silence. But within that silence, clarity. Not just about the past, but about the future. Back in the world, governments and secret orders would deny what they'd found. The Brotherhood would still chase shadows. Institutions would still protect power over truth. But Langdon and Leora had seen it, and they would tell the story. Because the true secret of secrets was not in symbols or relics or ancient texts. It was in remembering who we are and choosing what we become.